This video is going to be a kickoff to a series of short videos talking about optimizing the performance of your website. Specifically, we're going to look at some web pages and what Google says as far as their speed, good or bad, and also look at ways to be able to optimize those pages. The future videos will talk about the individual and specific ways to optimize. Walk through some options there, and then also look at some speed improvements. But for right now, let's just look at some of the overall page timings and see if there are any areas where we can make some improvement. I previously talked about Google Analytics. This is Google Analytics for one of the sites that I manage. If you look over here on the left-hand side, click on Behavior, and then Site Speed, and then Page Timings. This will give you an idea of some of the page speed load times. So this page right here, for example, loads 427% slower than the average page on the website. Something's definitely wrong with that page right there. Some of these pages are a lot faster than average. Really, if you look at the average is probably being thrown off by this one page here right now. So that's definitely something we're going to want to take a look at. If you click on this little arrow, it will actually open that page in another browser window so you can see what the page is. Now that page didn't appear to load horribly slow to me today, but certainly in some of the samples it did for Google. So let's see what we can do about that. Another section here in Google Analytics is speed suggestions. So we're going to go ahead and click there. This takes just a moment to run because Google is actually looking at some of your pages and analyzing them to see if there are some suggestions that it would recommend that you make. This is the same page that we were just looking at that was loading so much slower than average on the website, and this is telling us that there are 7 recommendations. So let's go ahead and click on the number there, and again it opens up another window. This time it takes you to Google's PageSpeed tools. You can also go directly to this. It's developers.google.com/speed/pagespeed. It lets you enter any URL for any web page that you want, and then you can just click Analyze, and it's going to give you a desktop tab and a mobile tab. You can see that it shows you what the rendering looks like on both of those instances, and it's going to give you a score. This page is not doing very well at all. I've never seen any page get 100, but I've definitely seen some pages in the high 80s and in the 90s. And 51 and 63 are just unacceptable. So we need to look at what we can do to optimize that. So possible suggestions that it talks about right here. The very top one is optimize images. So if we go ahead and click the link, it'll give us some further details. If we optimize the images on this site, we can save 244 kilobits. So that's a 36% reduction in the size of the images. Having smaller images means that the pages are just going to load faster. It's less data that has to be downloaded to your user before the page can fully render. So it's going to be a better experience for them. Server response time. This varies depending on host, time of day, load that's going on your website. Sometimes the internet connection between the user and the server, or the testing server and the web server. There's not always a ton that you can do about that, but if you see this consistently high, it's something you want to talk to your web host about. Browser caching. This is another one. It's a fairly easy fix. Your web host can probably help you with that, or I will show how to change that yourself if you're running WordPress on Apache or Nginx or something like that. But essentially what this does is it allows the browser to cache certain information. So if somebody's been to your website before, some of the images might be repeated across multiple pages of the website. This will allow those images to get cached on the user's browser end so they don't have to load from the server. That can have a huge difference on impact on the load time. Render blocking Java and CSS. This just means that there's some code that is loading before the rest of the page starts to display. Sometimes you can actually make changes and improve this, sometimes you can't. jQuery is just a fairly standard block of code, if you will, with WordPress. I don't know if there's going to be anything that we can change with that. Style sheets, Fusion Core, so some of this stuff in social warfare, this is related to one of the plugins I have here. It's hard to tell how much of a difference it would make messing with these or whether it would be worth any of the effort to do, and sometimes you just can't fix them. So we're definitely going to focus on things that we can fix. So far we know that we can fix the image optimization and browser caching for sure. Compression, this is another thing that we can fix also. Let's see here. Some of this stuff is actually loading from a different website, so it's information that's being pulled from an external website, in which case we're not going to be able to fix it. Yeah, it doesn't look like any of these are actually coming from our domain name, so that's actually an area that we're not going to be able to deal with. Hopefully that's not going to have too much of an impact. Minifying the HTML really just strips the spaces, the blank space, out, so therefore it turns into a smaller file to download. Same thing with the JavaScript, strips out the spaces, just kind of compresses the code, and exactly the same thing also for the CSS. So I'm hoping that by optimizing the images and also looking at the browser caching, we can have a big impact on the performance here. So in another video, I'm going to go through, make some changes, and see what we can do there. Meanwhile, definitely go check out your page speed in your Google Analytics, or go directly to the developers.google.com/speed/pagespeed, enter in a couple URLs and test those out. A lot of times you can have customers and visitors to your website that have a poor experience and you're not even aware of it. So definitely take the time to check that out.